All right, we're on lesson 28, A Sage and His Money. And this is a good opportunity to stop and just remind us, as we are studying the Proverbs, we cannot take any single proverb as the totality of the Proverbs instruction on a subject. So every proverb gives a piece. And the way to rightly understand what Proverbs teaches on a subject is to compare all the Proverbs about that subject to one another. And also comparing them all and keeping them all in direct relation to what Proverbs says is wisdom. So we're going to connect it to skillful living based on the fear of the Lord. And so that there is as we saw a few weeks ago, wisdom is righteous. So we're measuring all of the individual Proverbs in relation to themselves, to the morals of Proverbs, to the God of Proverbs, to understand what is being taught. At the same time, Proverbs gives us these pieces, as it does, in part because true wisdom recognizes that circumstances never fit neatly in a box. This life just doesn't work that way. There's always some complexity, some twist to the situation that we have to stop and say, wait, does that really apply here? Or am I understanding this rightly? And there's always something there that wisdom recognizes the nuances, the little differences of the situation, and applies and responds rightly applies the Word of God to that situation. And Proverbs is laid out, I think one of the reasons Proverbs is laid out in what I would consider a disjointed fashion, where you don't have themes. You have proverb and then seemingly a completely unrelated proverb. And then 30 proverbs later, there's another one that's on the same subject. Part of that is reminding us life itself is disjointed, but the wise one is able to navigate those complexities to rightly apply truth to those different situations. And money is one of those good examples of that, because Proverbs speaks both positively and negatively of riches. So that the Bible never presents money as the root of all evil. What is the root of all evil? The love of money. Then the Bible never presents money as just a pure good either. It is dangerous. And we're going to see that as we go through this. But the possession of money can be very spiritually dangerous. And so the Bible warns us about money, but it does not tell us to have nothing to do with it. And it certainly doesn't tell us to get it whatever it takes to get it. There is a very, I'll use the word nuanced again, there's a very nuanced approach to money throughout Scriptures, and especially in the book of Proverbs. And so Proverbs 16:16 is where we're going to start off. And it says very simply, how much better to get wisdom than gold, and to get understanding is to be chosen rather than silver. So we have this proverb. It's just simply a better than proverb. Everybody see where that comes from? It's better than. There's several of them like that. As I said, I think as you're reading through them, if you're aware of them, the fact that there are these better than proverbs, it's helpful to identifying what's going on. But they are really very, very, very obvious, because they do say in some respect better than. So there's one comparison. And so this is actually a repeating better than proverb. What is the two things being compared in this proverb? So you have wisdom and understanding are both being compared with gold and silver. So which one's worth more? Yeah, wisdom and understanding. Those are the things, obviously, that Proverbs is telling us right off the bat. Right off the bat in this verse. These things are the most important. There's no subtlety here. I don't think there's any complexity as far as I go with figuring it out. He just states it straight out. It's better to have wisdom than of gold. So if somebody offers you a chest full of gold coins and a chest full of wisdom, which one does Solomon think you should choose? Wisdom. Unfortunately, wisdom doesn't come in neat boxes that you open up and just there you have it. We recognize that. But there is some comparison as we think about it and what's happening here. Because usually getting gold and silver, or we'll just say riches in general, we require work. I mean, unless you inherit from your parents, it's taking significant effort to build a fortune. So, if it takes a lot of effort to build a fortune, what does that imply? Might be true about wisdom and understanding. We know it's true because of what we see in the first 9 chapters. It's going to take some work. So, if you have a choice, because we all have a limited number of hours in our day, we have to choose how we spend our time. Which should you invest the effort in getting? Wisdom and understanding. And there is a, what? Choice. We have a choice in this matter. And this is really is a crux of this particular verse, is that we are making a choice about what we value, about our priorities there. So what I'm going to do is I've been drawing out principles. You have some on the, I know have blanks in them on your sheet there, but as I'm going through this, I'm going to explain it a little bit, and then I want you to give me some of the principles from this verse. But there is, first and foremost in this verse, there is the evaluation. There is a statement of quality here. If there's an evaluation of standards here, there is something that is better. That means there's something that is not as good. There's something to be preferred. It means there's something less preferable. There is a grade A. This implies there's a grade B. There is an evaluation of this. The evaluation is found in the words better than. So it's not just making a statement about, more people like this. This is something that everybody, that is popular. This is, in the context of Proverbs, the better than statement is saying this is a wiser and more righteous choice. So we're talking better than in terms of the fear of the Lord. There's something that is eternally more valuable for life. And that, of course, as we've already said, is wisdom and understanding. There is an action. The action here is to get. And here it's not giving us a command of you go get, at least it's not a direct command, but there is an action at work here, get. This is not something, and so you may inherit a fortune from a rich uncle. You will never inherit wisdom. How do we get wisdom? We get it. We go through Proverbs 1 through 9. We apply the principles that have been taught there, that we heed the cry of wisdom. We get wisdom. There is a comparison so that we have the wisdom, gold, understanding, silver. These are the subjects being compared. And Solomon is hitting right where everybody lives, right where the world around us. Because give the average person an option here. I will teach you something, or I will give you $1 million. What are they going to take? $1 million. We're not even thinking about it. That's the problem. They're not going to think about it. This comparison is really, Solomon is driving the student back to the foundation. And this has been said in the first 9 chapters of Proverbs repeatedly and in several different ways, that wisdom is worth far more than anything else. And then we have the exhortation: choose wisdom. That's what we're ultimately, this verse is calling us to do, is to choose wisely, to choose wisdom, choose understanding, to prefer them over gold and silver. You're going to have to choose between understanding and silver, at least in the context of the verse. So with these 3 things, money is not your most valuable possession. Money is not as important as you think it is. Life offers choices, and the wise choose wisdom over wealth. Because wisdom isn't just, it doesn't come spur of the moment. It's not, I get in the situation, oh, what do I do now? Oh, I'll choose wisely. It takes homework. It takes preparation to understand the right choices before you are presented with the options. And so you have to work hard to gain wisdom. And because wisdom is more valuable than gold, then we should be working harder to gain wisdom than to gain money. Now, this does not mean we do not work at all. I'm going to devote my life to wisdom. I will be a hermit in a cave. And I will never have any money. That's not it at all. Proverbs certainly, as we're going to see, teaches the value of money. So it doesn't say money's of no value at all. It does say work harder, though. I'll remind us as well, as you're thinking about the Proverbs, these are specific situations, specific proverbs that are illustrating for us general principles. And so the specific is wisdom is better than gold. I've already generalized it a little bit, just simply saying wisdom is better than money. So it's true to take this verse and say wisdom is better than rubies. Wisdom is better than diamonds. It's also true to take this verse and say wisdom is better than television. Wisdom is better. Sorry, Jim. Wisdom is better than fishing. Wisdom is definitely better than baseball. I'm not apologizing for that. And taking the specific and generalizing it, recognize if wisdom is better than that which most people value most, it's better than all that the unsaved value. And this is where we're bringing in the fear of the Lord. What does God value? What does wisdom teach us to value? It's not unlimited in just expanding it out to mean that wisdom is better than the salvation of the lost. That's not appropriate. Wisdom's not better than the glory of God. But it is certainly better than a brand new motorcycle. I'm going to restate the choice statement a different way. Examine life's menu carefully. Again, not just spending our time, but our money, our thoughts. Spending our lives. There's a host of choices available to us. And we should examine those choices carefully. And I think the menu is, at least for me, it's a helpful analogy. Life doesn't present us with this pile of options. Say, here you go. Here's all your choices. If you want to become a professional athlete, here's what it's going to cost you. If you want to become a world-famous musician, this is what it's going to cost you. If you want to retire comfortably and spend the last 20 years of your life on top of a mountain watching the sunrise, here's what it's going to cost you. Life is not that neatly packaged. But really, we do have a whole host of options available. And they all cost something. None of them are free. And so we have to think carefully about the options presented to us and choose wisely. And this is, again, a helpful thing as you're thinking about grandchildren or younger people, ministering to them, and telling them, look, there are choices, but you need to examine the choices carefully. What is the cost of what you choose, and what is really valuable? Again, Proverbs does not say money is of no value. It does teach us that there is value in our money. Proverbs says that money gains friends. And this is more of an observation in the book of Proverbs than necessarily an admonition, but it is certainly true. In fact, there's a Jewish proverb. I had to include it because it states it well. With money in your pocket, you are wise and you are handsome and you sing well too. So if I had more money, I'd be a better song leader. It's just simply stating, if you're rich, you have more friends. You're much more popular. Money legitimately provides security. We recognize this. We recognize that if I have a cushion in my savings account, you have the Dave Ramsey says 3 months expenses in your saving account, whatever that is, that rainy day fund. There's a security there. There's an element of peace because I know, my furnace could go out tomorrow, but I've already got the money in the savings account ready for that. It's not that big a deal. So there's a peace and security there, and that's valid up to a point. Proverbs 18:11 says, "A rich man's wealth is his strong city." It's his fortress. You think of the city of Jericho. It had, the Israelites marched around and the walls crumbled down. Archaeology has told us that there was 2 separate walls. It was up on a massive hill. There was a lower wall, I believe it was 30 foot tall. There was this slope that went up 30 or 40 feet to a second wall that was 10 to 12 foot tall, if I remember all my facts rightly. But you have, they're significant, 60, 70 feet from the ground level to the top of the city walls. That's an incredible fortification, especially when you're talking about people who are trying to break through those walls with whatever they can carry in their hands and maybe have an oxen drag through. There are no tanks. There are no airplanes flying overhead to drop a bomb. They're attacking this city essentially with fists and clubs and swords. That's what he's talking about. The same kind of picture. This strong city is seemingly impregnable fortress. The rich man recognizes that his riches shield him from the onslaughts of life. And again, that's true. And what we do with that is a separate question, but it's absolutely true that there is security in money. It also negatively promotes self-satisfaction. Proverbs 18:23 says, "The poor man uses entreaties, but the rich man answers roughly." So you have a poor beggar who is pleading by the side of the road. The poor beggar, the one who's destitute, usually does not get in your face and demand. He is not going to be overly aggressive and overly assertive. He's going to plead. He's going to seek pity. The rich man who hears this and sees this responds by rebuffing the poor man. He responds with a harshness. He doesn't care. There's a callousness to the poor man's need. Part of that comes from just simply, I have money. You don't. I'm better than you. We've all seen this at times in people's lives. This one has money. They think they're better than everybody else. Doesn't matter where they got the money from. It could have come from their great-great-grandfather. He made all the millions and just passed it on to generation. Doesn't matter. They've got money. This money does absolutely promote a self-satisfaction. Proverbs also tells us that money is at times the reward of righteousness. So Proverbs 22:4 says, by humility and the fear of the Lord are riches and honor and life. So that God, especially in the Old Covenant, talking about the Old Testament times, where God has promised Israel to give them prosperity in the land if they are obedient. So we keep it in that context. But generally speaking, in that Old Covenant context, there was rich blessing for righteousness. And as we've already talked about, even still today, we don't have those same kinds of promises as was given to Abraham or to Israel at Mount Sinai. But even still today, if you live a righteous life, generally speaking, you will be more prosperous than if you had lived a wicked life. Not comparing you to anybody else but yourself, generally speaking, that there is greater financial blessing in right living than in wicked living. It is that also teaches us that secure wealth is gained by hard work. So Proverbs actually condemns those who follow the get-rich-quick plans. So Proverbs 21 verse 5, it says, the plans of the diligent lead surely to plenty, but those of everyone who is hasty surely to poverty. And here is contrasting wise planning with sloppy planning, the hasty planning. But those who are diligent, those who plan well, who work to accomplish well, or to do well what they're seeking to accomplish, generally speaking, it works. It's not trying to get rich quickly. It's not just again shoddily going about something. But those who think and plan well, who execute the plan, generally speaking, it's going to do okay. And that is the best way to build secure wealth. So the easy contrast is the stories. There are dozens of stories of what happens to lottery winners. And how many of them find that their life is worse off with the millions that they won. Not everyone is a cautionary tale warning us not to play the lottery. Some have done okay with it. Still not justifying playing the lottery, but do you see many of those who are just given a windfall of money? Or you talk about college kids becoming professional athletes and these multi-million-dollar contracts and the struggles they have with the money because it's just been given to them quickly. It's not a secure wealth, but that wealth which tends to be lasting is gained by hard work. Again, we're talking in principles here. These are not absolute promises. So taking all of this, the rest and else of what Proverbs says, money can do a lot. Money cannot do everything. So Proverbs 11 verse 4 says, riches do not profit in the day of wrath, but righteousness delivers from death. Money can do a lot. Money can provide a sense of security in this life. Will your money protect you from a blizzard? Not at all. If we have a blizzard next week, hopefully we won't, but if we have a blizzard next week, everybody is going to get the blizzard. It's not going to skip the houses in town depending on how much money they make. And more importantly, Proverbs 11:4, this day of wrath is talking about is the judgment day. This day of God's wrath on them. And money's not going to help. God is not impressed. God is not deterred by how much money somebody makes. He doesn't look at the rich and say, oh, they're too powerful to touch. It's not going to protect. Michael Zigarelli said, God will not be impressed by the amount of money we have accumulated. That's not going to be one of the questions at the judgment seat of Christ. He's not going to ask us, what was your net worth? Not at all. You're not going to ask what kind of car you drove, how big your house was. Those aren't on that test. God's not impressed by how much money we make or accumulate. Money is temporary. Money is so fleeting. It doesn't last. In fact, Proverbs 23 is rather vivid. It describes money as taking wings and flying away. So again, you see, just to go back to last bullet of the section before, secure wealth is gained by hard work. There's an aspect there of wealth that remains. But here Solomon warns that money flees away. They're not contradictory, but they're presenting really two different perspectives. One, you're talking about how do we get money that hopefully will last, but then we also recognizing money does not last forever. And it's gone much more quickly than we think it's going to be. Get-rich-quick schemes lead to poverty. Those who are promising you'll be a millionaire if you just invest them. I mean, you think of the Bernie Madoff, I think it was, the most recent one, but these Ponzi schemes and the variation of schemes. Well, we just had the scandal with the basketball players getting tangled up with mafia card games. I think it was. They were trying to, the mafia was using them to sucker people into these high-stakes games. And, of course, the mafia was winning because they were cheating. Imagine that. And so that everybody, the people who are gambling, hoping to get rich, are losing. The basketball players who have been brought into this have lost out. There's all of this great cost simply by trying to get rich quick. A Japanese proverb says, money grows on the tree of persistence. It's a good way of saying that. Too much money is as spiritually dangerous as too little. And we're going to talk about this when we get to Proverbs 30. But Agur prays that he not be rich and forget the Lord. It's a real danger. We see that in America a lot. We have so much. We don't need the Lord. What's God going to do for me? I have a comfortable house, have a car. If something does happen, the federal government's ready to step in and to supplement my income. Who needs God? It's a grave danger that we face when we have money. A Moroccan proverb says, abundance of money is a trial for any man. Riches do not make the man. Riches do come from God. So that any blessing, any finances we have are from Him. Remind you, even tying back to the parable of the unjust steward, what we do have is lent to us from God. It's not our own. It is a stewardship given to us to be used for God's purposes. Proverbs 21:20 teaches to save money. Don't spend it all. So there's no wisdom in blowing everything that you have as soon as you get it. It says there's a desirable treasure and oil in the dwelling of the wise, but a foolish man squanders it. The wise man, again, just doesn't waste it. A fool and his money are soon parted. It's an American proverb that we all have heard. That's what he's talking about. So very quickly, just to wrap this up, wealth is not a measure of righteousness. So even though that riches are at times a reward of wealth, remember that riches do not save in the day of wrath. So we can't measure our righteousness by how wealthy we are. And this applies to churches. We cannot measure a church's faithfulness or righteousness by how big its buildings are. That's not the right measure. Riches are useful and good. We recognize that. We should recognize that. We really shouldn't scorn money, and we should not be thoughtless and careless with money. Riches are useful and good, but their utility is limited. They can't do everything. And there's a key word in that would do well to keep in mind. It's utility. Riches are a tool. They should be the servant. But money, the last bullet is money will master those who serve it. If we treat it as a tool, as our servant, it can be good. If we become its servant, it will rule us. I already touched on this, and go back a bullet, but physical wealth tempts the person to devalue God and His rewards. So what do? We trust God, not money. We have to recognize that this is where the danger, one of the grave dangers lie, is we trust the money. Yes, there is a peace and a comfort, and there's a wisdom in saving up so that when calamity happens, you have resources to fall back on. There's wisdom in planning ahead so that in the days to come when you're not able to work as much, or not able to work at all, that there are resources to rely on. Proverbs instructs us and promotes both of those things as good and wise. The problem is when we trust those things rather than God. Where our ultimate security and comfort and hope is in what we possess. Instead of recognizing that even if I have nothing, God will still supply all my needs according to His riches and glory by Christ Jesus. So that we save well and wisely. But we never forget that even we have nothing, we have all that we need in God. And all that we need from God. We had to view possessions as a gift from God. We view possessions as a gift from God. We never treat riches as an end. They're always a means to a greater purpose. When we treat riches as the end, we make it a God. If riches are the goal, riches are God. But if they are a tool, they are servant, then it may be that God is our God. Now, certainly there are many people who view riches as a tool to serve their gods. But we must never be mastered by we must never be mastered by money. Be generous. Proverbs says that the wise man has pity on the poor. Be generous to those who have a genuine need. Plan ahead. Proverbs 27. It's a vivid section of 5 verses there. I encourage you to take a look at it. Proverbs 27, 23 to 27, telling you basically to prepare your outside work first. Get everything ready outside so that when the days come when you're not able to work, or when the days come when it's raining all the time and you can't go out and plant or reap, or when you can't take the flocks out to graze, that you'll still have what you need. It really is saying when the rainy day comes, plan now so that when the rainy day comes, you'll have what is needed. Matthew 6 tells us serve God, not money. You cannot serve God and mammon. Michael Zigarelli said it really well. He wrote in a book about business practices. But he said the question of why one is in business is superseded by the question of why one is here. And that's true whether we're in business or not. The question of why we are making money. The question of, our goals with money, what we're saving for. The question of retirement accounts and investments is superseded by the question of why are we here? What is the purpose for which we have been created? We answer that question rightly, and we'll recognize that money is a tool for the glory of God. And so we use our money well and wisely.